Oh, a tricky test on the Thames, and Aston Villa passed with flying colours and in the process handed Fulham its first loss at Craven Cottage this season, while in the process extending Villa's impressive away undefeated streak. This was a game of many big moments. I will try to filter those down to the top three. Presented by 24/7 Services, let's review Fulham 1, Aston Villa 3. Welcome inside the parlor, Holy Trinity show headquarters here in soggy British Columbia, Canada. And you know, today, Sunday, October 20th, is the 2-year anniversary of another game at Craven Cottage. Yes, it was the end of the painful Steven Gerrard era, which came to its pitiful conclusion 2 years ago today. And who could have predicted what was going to happen next? It wasn't just a managerial change. It was a complete club cultural reset. And we're not even 2 years into that seismic shift. And yet here we are, still in on the quadruple. Here's just a couple of small statistical anomalies that prove how Unai Emery continues to rewrite history for this club. In the entire existence of Fulham and Aston Villa, this is the first time we've ever won consecutive league games at Craven Cottage. I was shocked to find that out. And this is our best 8-game start to a Premier League campaign since 98-99. And we did it after falling behind again early. I mean, how many times in the time before Unai Emery would we fall behind early and we're doomed to, at best, a draw? This is the Holy Trinity show. If you're new, welcome. I've titled it that way because of Trinity Road and the original glorious Archibald Leach-inspired grandstand, but also Trinity means three, so I attempt to identify the three key issues or moments that defined Fulham 1, Aston Villa 3. Providing video from the capital were Owen and Pat, and I would imagine, despite train service being disrupted on the way home, that these two would have had a great day in the sunshine in what is an absolutely glorious venue with a unique blend of both antique and modern somehow fused together. The key numbers were pretty close by and large. Actually, most of the staple stats that I shared did kind of lean towards the home side, like they had a higher XG helped by the penalty, obviously. They also had more big chances created but missed. We had more shots, and more of those were on target, and we were slightly tidier in the pass completion category. Extra stat was successful dribbles, which shows how well we drove the ball forward, oftentimes through the middle third, which is where Unai Emery wants us driving the ball. And it was by committee in this case. Only one player in our team managed 2 successful dribbles, and that was Matty Cash. Big issue, and in the grand scheme of things within our football club, this could be the biggest issue, but it's our squad availability now. When you look who's sitting on that bench and who we can draw from, the only guy left out of the squad on Saturday was Tyrone Mings, not including Lamar Bogart and Kosta Nedeljkovic, for example, but like senior players. So now we're going to have more competition in training. We're going to be able to rotate players better to keep them fresher for periodization. And then in some cases, we'll be able to make tactical switches to favor different horses for different courses. I cannot remember the last time we had our full complement at Unai Emery's disposal. Big moment. The moment when we can all just breathe and enjoy, and the supporters on site could sing with just that little more sauce. I'm talking about the 1-3 goal, and I want to take you back to the inception of that goal, the change in possession, which was actually a foul. And here's why Amadou Onana is such a big asset for us in midfield. I mean, he's almost like a third center back. He contests gets an aerial ball, but it was no contest because he always wins those with his stature. He gets submarined, it's a foul, and from there, we never lost possession again until Fulham kicked off. After another one of his very effective driving runs, Morgan Rogers finds Jacob Ramsey, and then this cute little no-look pass to the overlapping Luca Dean. And just 90 seconds after stepping onto the park, poor Issa Diop redirects the ball past Unai Emery's former number 1 goalkeeper at Arsenal, and we're kind of home and cool. And with the extra man, we can now dictate the match on our terms. Luca Dean was once again class in this game, and I really want him to have an extended run of games with Jacob Ramsey because you could see that there's a relationship and a chemistry forming there, but they've got to play more games together. After the game, of course, Luca Dean belted out his usual triumphant catchphrase, "Another one," which is also what he belted out after welcoming his newest baby to the family. Oh, look at them. They're so cute. You know, Aston Villa's fortunes have mirrored those of Luca Dean. We overpaid for him when he joined during a January window, which is a bad time to buy. Now, Luca Dean is worth every penny. His international career is flourishing again. He set up a goal during Nations League for France in midweek. And now he's keeping a very big and good signing on the bench in Ian Maatsen, although I'd be shocked if Maatsen didn't start on Tuesday. Big-ish moment, Jayden Philogene sent packing. I think we can all agree that the second foul on its own was probably not yellow-worthy, but I believe something was said that led to Jayden making the long, lonely walk. The yellow before that, though, was a classic example of a player doing too much with the ball, losing possession, trying to win it back, and being rash. And being rash is a recurring theme defensively for young Jayden, who has to learn how to show more poise and patience in those circumstances. Nevertheless, he'll miss the Bournemouth game now. Big issue for now is Leon Bailey's struggle so far this season. Our jinky Jamaican had a tough old day at the office on Saturday. He's struggling to keep possession of the ball, and he's struggling to keep his feet at times, which I think is a function of struggling to retain the football, and he's not getting in behind fullbacks as easily as we saw last season. He was dragged just after the hour mark, and just after he had given the ball away for what felt like the umpteenth time in the game. Statistically, he was dispossessed 4 times, but he only won 1 of 8 ground duels, and that's not good. Unai Emery shared some words with Leon Bailey, who was visibly frustrated when coming off. I didn't see this, but the commentators did, and I would imagine it would be words of encouragement because we really need Leon Bailey. We have to have balance in our attack so that we're threatening on both sides of the park, and we have a lot of games coming up, so Leon Bailey is an important player for us. And I don't know quite what the issue is right now and why he's not firing. But I've learned over the last 2 years to never write Bailey or any Villa player off for that matter. And just piggybacking off the Leon Bailey thing, I think in general terms you could say that Villa as a team were not 100% in sync, especially in that front third during the first 45 minutes. Certainly coming off of an international window is not helpful in maintaining some kind of rhythm. Fulham's start to that game was not helpful to us getting in sync, and their form at home has been very good this year. But it's a great comfort to me that we are winning games and still scoring goals despite not being 100% on the same page yet. Big moment, the opening goal. It's strange that we've only managed to score first twice through 8 Premier League games. And as much as Pau Torres is a champagne center back, and that champagne is being sipped in the back of a Rolls Royce, which is cruising slowly in South Beach, Miami. A scrappy physical center back, he is not. Raul Jimenez, on the other hand, is a street fighter who happens to have very good finishing ability. He's really rediscovered his form, both for club and country of late. Still, though, this is way too easy, and Diego Carlos's reaction was too late and, in my opinion, too soft this early in the game. Conceding a goal via Route 1 straight down Main Street that early might have flummoxed many a Premier League team or Aston Villa in the past, but you were probably thinking the same thing I was. Fulham scored too early, and we've had this habit of being able to bounce back and overturn early or even later deficits. Beautiful sunny Saturday in London. Absolutely chucking down and windy here on Canada's west coast. I mean, this is from a friend of mine on Vancouver's North Shore. This is severe flooding and damage. We're calling this an atmospheric river now. If 24/7 Services had a Canadian division, they would be hopping right now. Well, they are hopping because they're trying to prevent damage by clearing gutters and downspouts like this work at the Co-op Funeral Care in Opley. And while those gutters were being cleared, Holy Trinity show viewers, the Bruttons, were replacing their old white gutters and soffits with brand spanking new black ones that look really sharp and will probably work a whole lot better. Thank you both for watching and for using 24/7 Services. And by the way, the 24/7 Team Green, as they're sometimes known, was also out doing a lot of decorative work recently. I think this is from the Seddon Care Home in Warwick. And along comes David Waller, who's been watching this program since day one, basically. Thank you, David, who popped in to say hi to Paul Handsaker. There might have been some tea involved. David is a potential future 24/7 Services customer. You could be as well. If you visit their website, you'll find their phone numbers. I put them in the description of these videos, and I have to say thank you because when you employ 24/7 Services, you are indirectly supporting this show. Big issue number 3, rampaging Rodgers. It was a very good day for our big Morgs because he had a hand in some significant moments in this match, starting with the equalizing goal just 4 minutes after Villa fell behind. What's incredible about Rodgers is how he's able to weave through heavy traffic areas while still scanning the goal for opportunities. And in this particular case, you know, he kind of catches everybody flat-footed. He loves to use defenders as a screen, but obviously, he didn't mean to deflect it off a defender's legs. It's just that they were kind of flat-footed and weren't able to react to the quickness of the shot. The technique he uses is kind of like a snapshot, which unbalances players, including Bernd Leno, the goalkeeper, and he doesn't telegraph that he's going to strike it. Otherwise, a defender would have stuck a leg out, and he's surrounded by defenders here. And in these circumstances, he does this a lot throughout games. In fact, I think it's his big gift is he takes up positions that are really irritating between the lines. Like, does a defender have to step? Does a midfielder have to drop? And when you force your opponents to make decisions in a snap second, well, that's when mistakes occur. But the goal wasn't Morgan Rodgers' only contribution. In minute 64, Rodgers plays a ball that would change the course of the match. We had pretty much just made it 2-1. And while on the run, Big Morgs plays a ball that I could only describe as erotic. I mean, this gave me tingles in my down belows. The way he shapes it and weights it so perfectly that only Ollie Watkins is going to get there first. And then Ollie knows by now he just has to take that first touch across Anderson and boom, the big Dane was dumped. Apart from scoring and the role he played that I showed you in the 3-1 goal where he drives with it, Rodgers probably should have scored a second goal as well just before halftime at the end of a very lovely build-up move that had Jacob Ramsey cut the ball back right to him. He's wide open. The goal is gaping, and for once, Rodgers gets under it. And I was also impressed by the fact that he went 83 minutes in this game because, you know, it was 3-1 in minute 69. You've got Emi Buendia, John McGinn, and John Duran, all of whom could come in relief of Rodgers and save him a little bit for the work that's still to come this week. But instead, Unai Emery is riding him. And that's because he makes things happen, and obviously he has an engine. Big moment number 2, the penalty whisperer. You could make an argument that this was the number one moment from this game, because without this moment, we don't know what might have happened next if we play the what ifs. Now, I don't know what a handball is anymore. Some pundits on my broadcast said, well, what's Cash supposed to do? He's so close to Jimenez at that moment. Others said, well, his arm is in an unnatural position. On this day, it was a penalty. There are two key things, in my opinion, that make Martinez the Prem's premier penalty preventer. The first is simply his reputation. I mean, for club and country, he has proven that he is one of the best in the business. I mean, he set the stall pretty early for us. He made a penalty save in his first ever game for Aston Villa at home against Sheffield United back in 2021-2022. But then since Copa America, the World Cup, every penalty taker knows that this guy is good at this craft. And so potentially that is making them overthink things and maybe even changing their minds as they approach the ball. The other thing that the greatest goalkeeper in the world does is that Martinez remains incredibly patient, and this is discipline. Martinez has said in the past that he'd actually rely on tells or clues or instincts in those moments rather than scouting, even though Pereira has gone to that side 3 times successfully in his penalty-taking career, and let's also say it weren't the greatest penalty. But Martinez remains stationary, patient, calm, and he doesn't commit early, because if he does, he gives Pereira the chance to change his mind in that run-up. So let's consider what might have happened had Pereira buried the penalty and made it 2-1 Fulham in minute 25. I mean, do you think Fulham might have dug in just that little bit more now, having a lead and certainly having the crowd behind them again? Crucially, might Villa have had to expend more energy and more endeavor to try to get back into that game in what is going to be a very demanding week? And by the way, there's no guarantees that the same chances would have presented themselves to us later in that game, because for every action, there is a reaction and the game would have totally changed. If the 1-0 goal 5 minutes in wasn't a wake-up call post-international break for us, well, this save was. We got a massive lift. Fulham deflated. So was the crowd. It was a crucial moment. And the number one big moment that defined Fulham 1, Villa 3, set piece perfection. One of the sub-narratives in the lead-up to this game was the Cottagers' difficulties in defending corners. They had conceded from 3 of them already. They've only conceded 7 goals all season long. And they also hadn't scored from a set piece. So they miss a penalty and a chance to end one streak, and they concede from a corner to make it now 4 on the season. They're -4 on dead ball situations this season so far. Villa had 11 opportunities from the corner quadrant, and almost every single one of them was delivered to the same place, the near post, which caused angst and confusion for the defending team, and it also led, in some cases, to a succession of corners. And isn't it interesting that Villa, known for its innovative dead ball routines, kept going back to the well, to the near post, to the near post, and lo and behold, on corner number 10 of 11, our key man delivers. I don't need to tell you anymore that Youri Tielemans is a perpetual man of the match candidate, and Saturday was no different. He went the full 90, completed 91% of his regular passes, went 4 out of 5 of his long balls. He recovered the ball 6 times, and he created 4 chances. You could make the argument that Youri Tielemans is in the best form of his career, and he's made us all forget about Douglas Luiz, who's had a tough start to life in Turin. And in minute number 60, he fizzes a ball, nay, he pelts a ball into the only area of the box where Ollie Watkins can generate the kind of power he needs to score from a header. And then Watkins, wow, pulling out the power header option from his Swiss Army knife set of goal-scoring tools. The pop from the contact of that header was so good it rendered Bernd Leno superfluous. And Leno was standing literally right underneath it, and he couldn't react in time because the contact was so perfect. And I don't know if you noticed who was trying to man mark Watkins at that moment, but poor young Emile Smith-Rowe, not so young anymore, but this is the second straight time that Watkins has violated young Emile in a 1v1 situation, and boom, there it is. Your game-winning goal. Watkins' 5th of the season to go along with 2 assists. Think about the chances he's missed this season as well. Oh, Ollie loves Craven Cottage. The Sill Hill Brewery star performer is Morgan Rogers, who just edges out Yuri Tielemans based on his goal, the sexy pass he made that led to the sending off, and of course his role in the 3-1 goal. Now, Big Morgs is no longer blonde, so I can't award him the Blonde Star Ale, but I can pour him a Gold Star because he's buzzing right now, and he just has so much character, personality, and sweetness to his game. Speaking of character, the tap room will be filled with it on Friday, November 29th, when Sill Hill Brewery hosts 1982 Aston Villa Legends Night, starring Gary Williams, Tony Morley, and Des Bremner. Pints, personalities, pictures. Oh, it's going to be great. Tickets are selling fast. I've put a link to those in the description of this video. A lot of the subcategories have been updated after this game. We've only dropped 2 points away from Villa Park. Watkins adds another. VAR went against us for the first time this season, leading to another penalty conceded, but Emmy came to the rescue, of course. We had another set-piece goal, and in the 15-minute match increments, we conceded and scored in that first 15, but now only minutes 16 to 30 are in a deficit, while our second halves are all on the plus ledger. Incredibly, we've only scored first twice in the Premier League so far, our best ever start through 8 Premier League games. Now, as we look ahead to Tuesday, we can think back again to the penalty save. What if it's 2-1 there? Instead, we kind of cruise a little bit to a 3-1 win. We're able to rotate the sides. We didn't have to stress any of our starters out to go and chase a Premier League game and have regrets as well. We can now focus solely and exclusively on what is a big Champions League game on Tuesday night at home against a team that was superb and a bit surprising last year, finishing 5th in Serie A, just 3 points off 3rd and Juventus. Bologna, by the way, is owned by a Canadian, Joey Saputo, part of a Saputo family that has a number of big interests in this country, including dairy. This year, they're languishing a little bit down in 13th place, and they're suffering from quite an injury crisis at the moment, which includes Villa loanee Samuel Illing Jr. To say that we might be getting this Italian opponent at a good time on Tuesday might be tempting fate a little bit, but they too had to play on Saturday. They were away at Genoa, had a 2-0 lead and let that slip for a 2-all draw. And their top goal-scoring threat is Argentine Santiago Castro with 3 goals in all competitions. Now, I said earlier that I'd be surprised if Ian Maatsen didn't get a start in this game, but I'd also be shocked if Ezri Konsa and John McGinn weren't somehow involved, maybe even straight from the off. The one thing I've learned, though, about trying to predict Unai Emery lineups is that he is somewhat unpredictable. Have I told you lately how much I love a 3-point Saturday, especially at the start of a busy week, which includes the visit by Bournemouth on the weekend? They beat 10-man Arsenal at home on Saturday. It's not giddy quite. It's more like deeply satisfying. And by the way, if you haven't already, can I suggest that you cuddle up with Dennis Mortimer and let him regale you in the story of his life and his career from Liverpool through Coventry and into Villa for the most glorious period in the club's history, at least for now, as I continue with my series on all-time influential villains. Until Champions League on Tuesday, be well, and as always, up the mighty Villa!